Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show! Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting round of and new MMA show. I'm your host, Michael Hansen. I do all kinds of superb things with microphones because I'm a ring announcer and MMA cage announcer. And I'm joined this week, as I always am, since the inception of this show, by my two friends who bring MMA punditry to new heights. Joining us on the left sides of your screens from New York, Mark Priaulx. Mark, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. What's happening? Getting ready for Christmas over here. My wife is wrapping a million gifts that I'm not trusted to wrap. The house is crazy. My kids are on crack. So it's nice to step out and talk a little MMA here.
Nice, nice. And joining us on the right sides of your screens, all the way from the Sunshine States, where it is not cold at all, Omar, the Nicaraguan nightmare, Artola. What's going on, buddy? Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Yeah, getting ramped up as well. Christmas tree has been bright as a light on the outside. People can see it from outside, which is dope. And I finally figured out that I could actually twist my mustache into those little angry.
It's time.
Look at that.
Look at that. Right out of 19.
It's not bad.
A little bit of a Wario thing happening.
Yeah. It's not
right
bad.
out of 1905. My Christmas plans have been canceled. I was going to fly home to my family in New York, but my wife and my kid, but mainly my wife, is really, really sick. Not with COVID, not with anything COVID related, just with the normal, boring people illness. So we are going to be home.
People still get those
this year. Those are still things that still exists.
I wish them the best.
Oh, thank you. Folks, we have a very, very exciting show. We're going to break down this past weekend's UFC Fight Night card and discuss all the fights, whether it be in a full recap, quick recap, or our lightning round. Then we're going to hop into our Priaulx rankings. Then we're going to discuss a boxing match that went down between Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley, their rematch that happened this past weekend. We're going to dive inside the MMA sphere and find out what's new with Omar. And then, because there is not a card on the horizon, at least not this weekend, we're going to do something a little fun. We're going to end the show with a 2021 MMA trivia segment. So the past few shows, I've been ending the very end of the show with just a little one trivia question thing for the guys. This time, we're going to have trivia, sort of a round robin. You'll see when you get there. It's going to be really fun. We hope you stick around. Before we get into our first segment on the marquee, as always, anybody who's watching or listening, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the video, like the video, share the video, hit the bell icon so you never miss an episode. If you want audio only, we got you. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, find us on social media at @&new_MMA show. With that, gentlemen, let us dive into our first segment on the marquee. This week, the name on the marquee has got to be Belal Muhammad, who this past weekend defeated Stephen Wonderboy Thompson by unanimous decision, earning him easily the biggest win of his professional MMA career. Mark, let me start with you. What were your impressions of Bully B this past weekend, getting it done over all-time great welterweight in Stephen Thompson?
Name on the marquee is Remember the Name.
That's right.
See what
Very
I did
nice,
there?
very nice,
That was
nice.
teed up for you. You didn't
Very
take it.
nice.
I had to take it. So, yeah, I had Thompson anchoring like 4 different parlays. I got everything else right in them, thinking I'm golden, and here comes Belal to ruin my day. So I thought I was about to get paid a bunch, and I get paid nothing. So thankfully, Derrick Lewis rectified that in the main event for me. But, yeah, that was really impressive from Belal. He just walked forward all fight long. He stayed in Wonderboy's face. He gave him zero room to work. He initiated contact whenever he could, even if it was just holding an arm, grabbing. He just made sure they were touching. There was contact between them, so that Wonderboy didn't have that range that he relies on so much. He needs that space. The wrestling was dominant, more dominant than I think any of us really thought Belal even had in his bag. Granted, I do think the small cage was a huge factor in being able to corral Wonderboy that way, which I hadn't really thought of prior, which I'm kind of kicking myself for. But I mean, he dominated him, and that performance has me wondering a couple things. It has me thinking that we saw Burns do that to Wonderboy, and just figured like, man, Gilbert Burns is so good. But now that we've seen Belal do it, I'm starting to wonder if we're seeing the fall of Stephen Thompson here. Or the other thing is just, has Belal gotten that much better? Because the Belal who lost to Jeff Neal a couple years back never could have done that. Like, this is not the same guy. And it may just be a case of Belal figuring out like exactly what his game should be and of hitting his physical prime, because good Lord, did that man look huge. I mean, he had every muscle you can have. So like, I don't want to like suggest anything. I'm not trying to put anything on the guy, but like, Lord, like, let's get USADA over to that man and make sure of what's going on here.
Yeah, his doorbell might be ringing this week.
Right. But either way, great performance from him. He has now ascended into pretty high standing in this division, and Wonderboy in his next fight is going to kind of have to prove it that he still has it.
Yeah. Yeah. Omar, let me bring you into this and let me piggyback off of something that Mark said. Do you think that this result was more the rise of Belal Muhammad or the fall of Stephen Thompson?
It is hard to say, right? Because it was almost like the same way that who fought Wonderboy just right before
Burns.
So it was very similar to the way that Burns was able to kind of take down Wonderboy and keep him down. And I think we were also surprised at that when that happened as well. So it is difficult to say. I really didn't think Belal had that kind of wrestling. I really don't even remember Belal ever having that kind of wrestling. So I was definitely shocked. Listening to the podcast from last week, we were so wrong, like on so many different levels.
Yeah.
And I really don't know. I really don't, because that was my first thought when I was watching the fight was that's probably it for Wonderboy. I mean, I don't see him at this point getting any better if he can't stop Belal from taking him down and controlling him. Like, people might have had the recipe now at this point and they really know how to make it and put it together. So, when I hear him say, I was training with Weidman and, my takedown defense is really good. I don't trust Weidman to take anybody down now. So I don't really even know if that really like means anything at that point. So
wasn't Chris Weidman an All-American in college or something like that?
No, he's a credentialed wrestler for sure.
You mean because of the injury, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying just because of his more recent performances and the fact that he's, his leg is not.
Oh, I would still trust his wrestling.
You mean like in training, you don't think that Weidman was actually threatening to take Thompson down?
My thing is they've been training for so long at this point that I can't imagine that if he doesn't have a different look at this point, he's not going to get better. I don't think Chris Weidman is going to present something different at this point that's going to elevate his game. Maybe I should have been more clear on exactly what I meant by that. I don't think Chris Weidman has terrible wrestling. I just don't think he has anything elite at this point to offer Thompson that's going to change his game to something that's going to prevent him from getting taken down left and right by all these people and controlled. Because the control was really the worst part.
Well, Thompson has always trained with Weidman. That's nothing new.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're boys.
They're brothers-in-law.
Yes.
Who's married to who?
It's Stephen Thompson's brother is married to Chris Weidman's sister.
Oh, there you go. Oh, wow. That's
Wait,
very
really?
cool.
Oh, so they're not brothers-in-law.
They're kind of
cousins.
Well, not actually.
They're
I thought that's what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought one of them was literally married to the other's sister.
No. So Stephen Thompson. Stephen Thompson so it was so interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was Wonderboy was married to Weidman's sister. So no.
I just had this conversation about something completely different that led us to realize that we've never seen Stephen Thompson with anybody. Yeah. No wife, no girlfriend, like nobody, no partner. We don't even know if he's gay, to be honest. We don't know anything about anybody he's ever been with. That man keeps that on the low, and it's kind of impressive in this day and age.
I guess so. He's like the Derrick Jeter of MMA. That's a terrible analogy. Terrible.
Derrick Jeter was hoe number one.
Anyway, we're getting pretty we're digressing. Yeah, man, it's like Belal was ripped to shreds in the best shape of his life. And, the story on Thompson has always been that wrestling grappling is definitely his Achilles heel. He trains with a guy in Chris Weidman who is supposedly, purportedly, wrestling is one of, if not the greatest strength of Chris Weidman. It's his base. Sure. He claims to, he has a rightful claim to have an expertise in grappling and wrestling. So training with Wonder Boy, it's a two-way street. Wonder Boy is a world-class kickboxer. Weidman has the wrestling expertise. So from Wonder Boy's point of view, Chris Weidman says, hey, guys are going to be wanting to take you down in a cage. This is how you're going to stop it. This is what you do. That being said, I think the threat of Woodley's wrestling helped Woodley in his matchups against Wonder Boy. And obviously the grappling prowess of Gilbert Burns helped him against Wonder Boy. And this past weekend, Bully B got it done using all the grappling, the whole fight. I was like, wow, he's, showing the Achilles heel of Stephen Thompson.
And to his credit too, it should be pointed out that he didn't just lay on him. I mean, the man was going for Kimuras and submissions and beating on him. I mean, he was very, very active from the top and trying to move positions. And it was impressive. It was super impressive.
It just seems like people are suddenly able to crowd Wonder Boy in a way that they did not used to be able to. And like when we saw Burns do it, it was easy to be like, wow, it's because Gilbert Burns is so unbelievable, which he is. But like now that we've seen it again, it's like, I think something changed here in the danger that Wonder Boy is presenting back or something. It's just people didn't used to be able to walk on him like that. And now they are.
I mean, also to Belal's credit, he called that fight from jump. Oh, he almost pulled like the same thing that Juliana pulled, where he was like, I'm gonna beat the shit out of Wonder Boy. Like, you guys don't really understand what's going on. I know how to beat Wonder Boy, and I'm going to do it. And we're all like, yeah, cool, Belal, cool.
Yeah.
And like he knew what he was doing, and it showed honestly when he got in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. All right, where do these two guys go from here? Let's start with Belal, obviously, because he's the winner. Mark, where do you want to see Belal get matched up next at welterweight?
So it's hard because we're back at welterweight, the division where nobody takes fights.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it sounds like we're getting Usman versus Edwards. Thankfully, we'll check that one off. But then you still have Colby, Burns, Luque, Masvidal. None of these guys are booked, and that's the air that Belal has kind of entered now. So I know he's talking about Chimaev, which I guess makes sense. Personally, I kind of like the Chimaev Magny idea better, and Dana seemed to be warming to it recently, so I kind of hope they go with that. Belal versus Chimaev wouldn't be the worst idea either, but if that's not going to happen, I think you try to match Belal up with one of these guys who are just sitting here without fights. Like, it's your top guys, and you're not booking them because some of them don't want to fight each other or whatever it may be.
Right.
If it's me, I think the best one might be Luque. They obviously have fought already, but it was way back in 2016, which is now almost 6 years ago, which is a ton of time in MMA. And it's interesting because Luque won that fight, but Luque also recently struggled with the same Wonder Boy that Belal just absolutely handled. So I think there's kind of an interesting angle there. I think that matchup tells us a lot about where those guys are at. So that'd be my pick.
Give it to me, Omar. We got Covington, Burns, Edwards, Luque, who's out there. Belal is really, knocking on that upper echelon at welterweight. Who would you love to see him fight next?
Just at this point, just because of where he's at, like Mark was saying, it's really just kind of a pick 'em just to see, people just need to fight at this point. And so from a stylistic standpoint, Covington and Burns both are fantastic fights, especially now that we know that Belal has this insane wrestling pedigree that just, I don't know. I really never seen him wrestle like that. So I think all of a sudden now Covington, in my opinion, honestly, probably doesn't have that much of a shot as much as he probably once did with the wrestling credentials. I don't trust his volume over Belal's ability to hurt him. And Burns's ground game presents a significant challenge to Belal's ground game. So that'd be super interesting. Both of them are also not like the greatest strikers in the world, but they are very good strikers. So it'll be interesting to see if that matchup leads them to not have to touch the ground at all and they just keep striking, or if we see some kind of crazy ground match. Covington or Burns would be awesome.
Let me stay with you for Wonder Boy. Wonder Boy now has lost 2 in a row. And since his pair of title fights with Woodley, he has dropped 4 of his last 7 fights. So he's definitely, unfortunately, he's on a skid. He's 38 years old. He's still pretty highly ranked at welterweight. but he's probably going to be fighting a guy who is maybe trying to come up, trying to get over. And I think there's still a number of guys who he hasn't fought in the lower tier of ranked guys in the UFC. Lee's out there, Ponzinibbio's out there, Chimaev's there. I don't think he's fought Chiesa or Sean Brady, obviously. So a bunch of names. Who jumps out at you for Thompson's next opponent?
So to be honest, the Chimaev one was the one that I was thinking of that I thought would be interesting, just because at this point they're trying to figure out who to match him with. I don't know why they haven't just matched him with Neil Magny as it is, but the fact that they haven't just leads me to keep thinking about who would be interesting to see him against. Stephen Thompson is still a very interesting puzzle, but Chimaev's ground game seems to be on that elite level. And if we're really trying to figure out whether this was a fluke, whether it's just because Belal is this good or whatever, it'd be interesting to see him matched up against something like that again. The other way I would go would be a rematch with Masvidal. I think they haven't fought in forever at this point. They're two very different fighters. One, you would argue is almost on a climb at this point, while the other seems to be kind of descending. And even though Masvidal has lost, you could again argue that his career has never been higher and his stock has never been higher. So
sure, interesting.
It'd be interesting to see where they're both at from a stylistic standpoint, because they are very different guys now.
Mark, give us the take. Wonder Boy's next opponent. Who do you think?
Yeah, I don't hate the Masvidal idea at all. I actually considered that.
Really?
I'm just not sure that that's a fight Masvidal would take. I just feel like he has more juice than that at the moment, even though he himself has lost 2 in a row. Granted, it was both to the champ. I feel like he kind of has the ability to say, like, not big enough for me. I'm not taking that. If Belal just ate Stephen Thompson like that, I got to think Chimaev eats him like that. But, I mean, yeah, it's a cool fight. For me, I feel like I almost feel like it's time to step back with him and have him fight someone who, like you said, who's kind of on the come up. I really don't like any idea that I have, to be honest. I'm like struggling to match him up for whatever reason, because he's kind of fought a lot of these guys already. But if it was me, I think I might go with like a Daniel Rodriguez, like one of these guys who's trying to crack into it and see if Thompson can still turn back an up and comer type like that.
That'd be fun matchup. And that's a striker right there in D-Rod.
Right. I was trying to stay away from the wrestler to make sure Thompson can at least still win a fight if he's not against an elite wrestler,
Yeah. Nice. Any other things you guys want to say about remember the name Belal Muhammad before we move on? Okay. Well, in a different fight on this card, which happened to be the main event, didn't make it on the marquee, Derrick Lewis, who now owns the #1 spot for all-time knockout king, the most knockouts in UFC history. Let me say that again. The most knockouts in UFC history, not heavyweight knockouts. All UFC, all time. Derrick Lewis owns that spot. He knocked out Chris Daukaus in the very first round. Omar, let me start with you. What were your takeaways from the Beast getting it done once again by knockout?
I say honestly, for me, it's just like it's just another day at the office. It was very, very expected, I guess. I think we all picked different rounds as to when Chris Daukaus was going to lose.
Yeah,
but
who picked round 1? I forget. I had 2.
I had 3. Yeah.
So was Mike.
Yeah, Mike was the one who ended up with round 1. So yeah, it just seemed like another day in the office to me, unless somebody comes in that's a very technical fighter. They're not going to beat Derrick Lewis. It's not really going to happen. The Volkovs will always scare the shit out of me against Derrick Lewis. The Cyril Gans, honestly, the Ngannou scares me less than a Cyril Gane. Personally,
yeah, he has a much better shot against Ngannou than Gane. Agree, totally.
Yeah. So I'll just against fights like that, against somebody like Chris Daukaus, I'm never going to pick against Derrick Lewis. So not surprised at what happened. Feel really bad for Daukaus's face. Like that was brutal.
Mark, what do you have to say about Derrick Lewis getting it done once again?
Yeah, that was a almost forgot performance for Derrick Lewis. We all knew it. Personally, as soon as I saw Lewis as the betting underdog, I was A, shocked, and B, jumped on it. I don't know what it is with Lewis, but he never seems to get the respect that he deserves. He's not the most technical fighter on earth, and he's not always super pretty. but the man can fight, and that's all that matters.
Right.
And he showed it again. As for Daukaus, I never liked this booking for him. It was a big jump for him from what he's done so far. One that I personally felt was too much too soon. Yes, he had the leg kicks working, but for the most part, he was afraid to enter with his hands because of the power coming back. So without getting his own offense going, he was like more or less a sitting duck. And Lewis just waited to pick his spot. As soon as he saw it, he jumped on it, and that was that. You know, Daukaus tried to survive it. I don't know if anyone can handle that type of barrage from Lewis, and he couldn't. But it was another great win for Lewis, and it was a reminder to everyone who continually doubts this guy of how good he is. And it's a huge win that keeps him, again, just outside of the title picture.
Mark, let me say with you, and before we get into who these guys are going to go to next in terms of matchmaking, you know, let's stay on this for another minute about, you know, the knockout king. You know, I think when people talk about all-time greats in UFC history, all-time heavyweight greats, Derrick Lewis is probably not the first name that comes to mind. But what does this mean for this guy's legacy?
Oh, it's kind of on the theme that I'm saying. It's another legitimizing thing for a guy that seems to be almost treated like a little bit of a sideshow at times, which again, I never understand it. Like, yeah, he says a lot of funny shit. Yeah, he's a little bit overweight. Yeah, he kind of fights sometimes like he's in like a bar fight, and he doesn't have the most technique you've ever seen. But at a certain point, how many men have to die at Derrick Lewis's hands while he pounds the mat and does his little celebration before people are like, you know what, that Derrick Lewis, he might win some fights. Like, the guy wins a lot of fights. Yeah. Like, I would never want to stand across from that guy. He's like the scariest guy I can think of.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just another thing to be like, look, I know you don't want to give me the props that I should be getting, but here I am. I am now the all-time leader in knockouts. What do you have to say about that?
I think it
I love that he has it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, good for him, man. What a turnaround this guy made for his life. You know, having been in prison and now he's, you know, rich, all-time knockout king of UFC history. But I feel like this could only happen at heavyweight, like a overweight, chubby featherweight couldn't like make this happen. For his career. Omar, matchmaking. Put on your matchmaker hat. Derrick Lewis. There's a little bit of a logjam at heavyweight at the top, at least. Who do you see next for Derrick?
So I think what's interesting is that we're kind of at where we're at in the heavyweight division. All these crazy fucking things have gone down. Titles have changed hands and all this good stuff. Somehow Derrick Lewis and Stipe Miocic never cross paths.
Yeah. Here we go.
And Stipe seems to be like, you know, and I'm sure at this point he feels like he deserves what he deserves, but he seems to me to be a very difficult person to get a goddamn fight scheduled with.
Yep.
With that being said, I want to see Derrick Lewis against Stipe Miocic. Stipe Miocic is one of those guys that has the technique to beat the shit out of Derrick Lewis, frankly.
Yes.
But he also has the tendency to put his face in the line of where a punch is. Now, I will tell you something. I have done this. Put my face in the line of an oncoming punch. You know how it happens? Because you think you're dodging the punch. And so, thankfully, I'm training with people with really, you know, big gloves, and it literally feels like a little pillow hitting my face, and it's more embarrassing than anything. But do that against Derrick Lewis, and Stipe is going straight to sleep. Oof. Great fight.
That's a great fight, man. I did not even realize that at the top of heavyweight that Lewis and Stipe have never fought. Mark, what do you think? Your matchmaker hat, put it on, take off that beautiful, not Knicks hat, and put on your matchmaker hat. Who do you see next for Derrick Lewis?
Yeah, I love it. That's kind of where I was going too. And Omar laid out perfectly why it's such an interesting fight in terms of how they could each beat the other. Yeah, you don't have a lot of choices with Lewis because he's already beaten Volkov. He's already beaten Blades. He's not really going to go lower than that in the rankings because those guys don't really deserve to be fighting him right now. So, and he just lost to Gane. So it's like either you wait because maybe Stipe is getting the winner of Ngannou Gane. Maybe that's already locked in. In which case, if Gane loses, I don't know what the hell you do with Lewis still. If Ngannou loses, you could go that route and do Lewis Ngannou 2. But if Stipe is not already guaranteed that title shot, I absolutely think that's where you go. It's like the only one left that makes sense, and it doesn't make us have to wait for Stipe to get this title. When are Ngannou and Gane fighting? In a month? So Stipe would probably fight, 4 months after that, 5 months after that. So yeah, I would love if they just did Lewis and Stipe right now to see who should get the next shot.
Wow. What a great fight. And what if Stipe loses? That would be crazy. Yeah. My God. All right. Anything else you guys want to say about this matchup? Let us move on down the rest of this card. So also on the main card, Amanda Lemos defeated Angela Hill, my girl, by split decision. Angela Hill is the Jorge Masvidal of women's MMA, having been at the losing end of the most split decisions ever. Mark, let me start with you. This was a scrap back and forth. What was your impressions?
Poor Angela Hill, man. I've never seen anything like it. I think that's 0-5 in split decisions, if I'm citing that correctly, which is wild. I will say to start that Lemos clearly won round 1 and that the fight was close the whole way through. So I don't want to scream from the rooftops about it. But I don't see how you can score either round 2 or 3 for Lemos. I just don't. Angela Hill won both of those rounds. She deserved the decision. She didn't get it. The girl's cursed when it comes to the scorecards. I don't know why. I don't really see which round you could give away and why to Lemos. Someone scored at 30-27 Lemos. Which
my God. It's
more insane.
How?
That one seemed like a lot.
What were they watching?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I will say to Hill's credit that even without getting the win, she certainly exposed Amanda Lemos a bit and took some of the shine off her kind of meteoric rise that she had until that point.
Nice.
Definitely showed some weaknesses to her game and ways to get to her. So she looked pretty good overall. Again, I thought she should have got the W. Feel bad. It's a tough one.
Omar, let me throw this over to you. Amanda Lemos gets a split decision, gets the nod over the always tough, the always game Angela Overkill Hill. What were your takeaways on Lemos?
So when we talked about it last week, I really thought that the power of Lemos and just her momentum at this point was really going to make a big difference. I didn't really think that Angela would have the tools to beat her, really. I didn't think she would have the power to really make any kind of impact against her. And I really didn't think that she would be able to withstand the blows once they started coming. Yeah. Super wrong. And I'm super glad I was, to be honest, because I love Angela Hill. And she ate that up kick. I mean, front kick. I'm sorry. She ate that front kick right to the chin. And
right in the kisser.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, they don't get the most perfect front kick in the world was Anderson Silva versus Vitor Belfort. That's in a textbook. That's what you would put in there, right? This is if you had read that textbook and executed it almost just as perfect. It was a beautiful, beautiful front kick. And Angela ate it. And not only did she eat it, she kept her shit together and kept firing back towards the end of that round. I mean, she was kind of out of it, I think, for about a minute or so, but that, a minute off of a front kick, and came back to, in my opinion, also win the next 2 rounds. They were close rounds though, and it was a scrap from the 2 of them. But to me, Lemos always seemed a step behind. And I really thought that Angela was putting on definitely a much more aggressive pace and was landing a lot more just on the volume difference that Angela was throwing down. Mm-hmm. I was super heartbroken to see her lose another split decision like that. Again, just like Mark said, I didn't really feel like it was a robbery just because of how fucking close that fight really was.
Yeah.
Damn it. It was just heartbreaking to watch her lose that shit again. I really thought she won it. I really thought she had gotten it by the end of that fight, and it just sucked to watch her lose.
Amanda Lemos is now, she's moving on up. She's taking this W with her and not giving it back. Mark, who do you see you're matching up with in the top 10 at women's strawweight?
Yeah, I don't want to skyrocket her off of that performance because there's definitely still some questions. I think a matchup with Nina Nunes would be cool since Nina looked a little rusty herself. Granted, she used to be, top 5 of this division. So I kind of think that's a good one to tell us where both of those girls are at this point. So I like that one.
Omar, I think you treat Angela Hill like a winner. I think the UFC matchmakers can and maybe should. Where do you want to see Hill go from here?
So I should point out, just because I was interested in that was actually my immediate thought. Angela Hill did not move in the rankings at all. She did not go up and she did not go down. So I'm pretty happy about that, to be honest. And Amanda Lemos only moved up 1 spot.
In the UFC rankings.
In the UFC rankings, yes.
Not the better ranking system, which all people
Priaulx Rankings.
which all people should get on and follow because they are a better ranking system. Not sorry.
Well, they can't follow them yet. They're not public yet.
Lemos in the UFC rankings, Lemos is officially number 10 now. So as far as Lemos is concerned, I'd be down to see her against somebody who's a little bit higher, somebody who's had a little bit more experience, just because off of that fight, it's the guttiest fight that she's had at this point. So she deserves some credit for that, but it's also the most vulnerable she's ever looked in a fight that I've seen her. If it were me, I'd probably throw her in with the Tisha Torres, maybe even a Michelle Watterson. I know Michelle's booked against somebody now. But I'm assuming Lemos isn't going to be fighting for at least a few months at this point. So there might be some
time. Move on. Cool.
I was just going to say for your question on Angie, I was going to say that Jessica Penne is kind of on a run right now and has entered the rankings. I kind of like that one for Angie's next one.
And Penne looked fucking good. Like, what happened to Penne? She looked great in her last fight when she came back.
A lot of time off. She got better.
Yeah, man. Well, guys, at men's bantamweight, Ricky Simone, fighting out of the Pacific Northwest, looked real good against Raphael Assuncao, knocking the man out with punches at 2 minutes and 14 seconds of round number 2. Omar, let me start with you. What were your impressions of the gentleman with Mexican heritage, strong Mexican heritage, Ricky Simone, getting an impressive knockout victory over a tough vet in Raphael Assuncao?
Bro. That shit was crazy. My wife and I were listening to the podcast in the car while I was taking her to work, and when we were talking about it, I was going with the Assuncao just based off of his experience. He's been around for a minute. Yeah, he's running on the older side, but like, it's the Assuncao. I can't just not pick a Assuncao, right? But I did say, wouldn't be surprised if Ricky Simone ended up winning this fight. That boy's a scrapper. I would never in a million years would have told you that he would have destroyed Assuncao the way that he did. I wasn't impressed necessarily with the Cody Garbrandt knockout of Assuncao. I still think that was that's literally the definition, in my opinion, of a lucky shot. We don't have to go into that again. But this seemed more like he's not, the speed isn't there anymore. His reaction time is not there anymore. We always talk about this is like the game of inches, and Assuncao was one of the best at being able to kind of gauge that distance. And I just don't think his movement is keeping up with what he needs to do and how he fights. And the damage he's taking as a result of it at this point just seems unnecessary. The man, I don't think he's never won a belt, right? At least a UFC belt. No. He's always been like right there.
Yeah.
So I get it, but like, I think we're good at this point. You know what I mean? For safety.
Mark, what were your thoughts on the statement win by Ricky Simone?
Yeah. So referencing last week, I did think Simone would win, but I admit I also did not think he would win like that. Like, I didn't even consider him winning in that fashion. Well, one of the questions we had was how comfortable Simone would be going to the ground with Assuncao and risking being in there with Assuncao's grappling. He answered that right out of the gate in round 1, and the answer was super comfortable. And then in round 2, he friggin' ends things in style with a nasty KO, which is not something we really see from Ricky Simón. So you really can't have a better all-around performance in like a round and a half than Ricky Simón did in that fight. I mean, it's a hell of a way to break through the rankings and let people see how good you are and how concerned they should be with you. Assuncao, like Omar said, unfortunately at age 39, may kind of be near the end of the road here.
Yeah. Mark, I'll say with you, men's bantamweight, Ricky Simón, he's climbing the rankings. He looks really good. I think he kind of put the whole division on notice. Where do you want to see him go from here at bantamweight? Yeah,
so Ricky Simón is one of these guys who has been like right there at the rankings for like literal years. Like, don't forget, he beat Merab. It was strange circumstances, but he has a win over Merab. And he's been hovering like right there. He's just one of these guys that for whatever reason, the UFC kind of kept giving like a little lower guys to, and you were like, shouldn't Ricky Simón get someone better than that? And now we finally do. They did give him Uriah Faber a little while back where he lost. So to be fair, but other than that, he hasn't gotten like a huge chance. So now he finally breaks through. The guy's really good. He's good all around. And I've seen a bunch of names thrown out for him. One that I haven't seen, which is actually the one that I do like, is Frankie Edgar.
Oh, wow.
Now, I don't know if Frankie is going to continue fighting. We got to see what Frankie's deal is. But if he is, I actually think that the two of them are like great measuring sticks for where the other still stands in this division right now. Can Frankie turn back a probably more physical, skilled wrestler with power and show that he still matters in this division? Or can Ricky Simón employ his own wrestling against a guy whose wrestling is elite in Frankie Edgar, or find his chin, which apparently Ricky Simón's a knockout artist now all of a sudden. Yeah. So I like that, what that would tell us about each guy.
He just looks so strong. Man.
Oh, he's a big bantamweight.
Oh yeah.
Just like in terms of, width.
He's a thick guy. He's a thick, strong guy.
Yeah.
Omar, what about you? Looking at the bantamweight picture right now, where would you like to see Ricky Simón go next?
So I was thinking more in the realm of the Pedro Munoz area. Okay. I think that'd be an interesting fight. Again, just really for the same reasons. I just less about where Pedro Munoz stands necessarily, and more about where Ricky Simón stands. At this point, especially fighting somebody like Frankie Edgar and even like Pedro Munoz at this point, I don't want to see Frankie Edgar fight no more, man. That's me. I know I might be in the minority.
He just beat Pedro Munoz.
But I hate seeing that man take fucking damage at this point. Like it just drives me crazy. He just doesn't need to do it anymore. But anyway, Pedro Munoz would be my pick at that point. Ricky Simón is super good though. I'm really interested to see how far he can go. Not to mention his only losses in the UFC are to Merab and to
no, he beat Merab.
I'm sorry, he beat Merab. Are to was it Rob Font?
It's Faber.
Rob Font and Uriah Faber.
Font? Wow, I don't even remember that fight.
That was right after Faber.
Wow, you're right. I see it now. Wow, that's weird that I don't remember that fight.
And those two guys have arguably been doing, Rob Font has been doing relatively well in his career at this point. So it's okay. So I'll be interested to see what happens.
Yeah, Munoz was actually my guy for Assuncao. I brought it up last week, and I was going to stick with it. Munoz has lost 4 or 5. Assuncao is losing. They fought before, and Assuncao got the W. I feel like it's a good time to maybe run that one back. Let one of them kind of hop back into relevance, and the other guy kind of goes away a little bit.
Okay, marching down the main card of this fight night in the lightweight division, Mateusz Gamrot defeated Carlos Ferreira by TKO, submitting him basically with strikes at 3 minutes and 26 seconds of round number 2. It was a kind of a crazy ending. It kind of seemed like kind of a freak injury, but upon watching the replay, you realize that Mateusz Gamrot landed a nasty knee basically to the back of the rib cage of Diego Ferreira, or rather Carlos Diego Ferreira, and basically causing him to have to tap out and be like, I think my rib is broken right now. Referee stepped in, stopped the fight, and Mateusz Gamrot got a really impressive victory. Omar, let me start with you. What did you make of this scrap, which is exactly what it was?
Yeah, it was a great scrap, but it was kind of, I think, what we all talked about and what we all thought was going to happen, especially with kind of how we think Gamrot at this point is going to be at this division from this point on, just how strong and well-rounded he looks, or is, I should say. The first of all, that strike to the bottom is not utilized enough. People do not strike to the bottom, I think, like appropriately. There's a lot of opportunities for them to make a lot of different choices when they're on the bottom. Instead, a lot of them like to headhunt on the bottom. Ribs are open all day, and people don't really use it enough. It's very rare to see one of those kind of those Muay Thai side knees on the ground like that. Oh. What we did find out, or at least, Diego was talking about, is it Diego Ferreira? Is his
Ferreira? Yeah. Well, he's Brazilian, so he has.
He used to be Carlos Diego Ferreira, but then he dropped the Carlos at a certain point in time.
Yes, I don't know what part is his name, his first name or his last name anymore.
Nobody knows.
All right. Well,
it's called Ferreira.
So it turns out, or at least he's claiming, that his ribs were already messed up going into that fight, or had been recently broken going into that fight. It very possible, could also be a nice excuse. Either way, the strike itself though was like a thing of beauty. If they weren't broken before, they're probably broken now.
Yeah, that's true.
It was the only thing that was kind of weird was like him trying to talk to the referee and being like, "No, I'm good. It didn't hit me low," or something like that, and then he ended up getting choked out a result.
He was telling the referee that he quit.
Yeah, I thought he was.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, he was saying, "I'm done," end the fight.
I mean, it happened very quickly.
Guy.
Yeah, and Gamrot, took advantage of that moment. Didn't realize that. Ferreira was flagging the ref, and he grabbed. He took a hold of the neck, and he sprawled back for a rear naked choke.
Poor guy.
So it did not end in a choke, but it ended in a sort of a weird kind of a thing. Mark, what was your reaction immediately following this fight of Mateusz Gamrot getting it done over Ferreira?
What a friggin' scramble show between those two guys that we got for a round and a half. I wish we got it for 15 minutes. We wondered on here where that fight might take place because of how well-rounded they both are. We were saying, I bet they both think they have advantages everywhere. And they both thought it because the answer was it took place everywhere. Like that was great to watch.
Definitely.
It felt like when you were watching live, it felt a little bit unresolved because of the injury.
Right.
But as you guys said, it was entirely caused by Gamrot's knee. And Paul Felder said this on the broadcast. That finishing sequence is really no different than a body shot that lands standing on the feet that drops a guy. So you got to give Gamrot his credit. He earned that stoppage. That was all him. So huge win for him. He skyrockets up the rankings.
No division is possibly more stacked than lightweight. Gamrot climbing up. He might be cracking the top 10 in our pre-rankings. Don't know. We may find out a little bit later. That being said, Mark, let me stay with you. Mateusz Gamrot, next opponent. What do you think?
So I'm not shooting him way up in terms of opponent. I'm actually curious. Did the UFC rank him? They did 12. Sorry if you said that. I didn't hear you say that.
That's okay.
I just feel like it's hard right now for to get like a Tony Ferguson or a Dan Hooker. Granted, Hooker might be moving down to featherweight, but like to get one of these guys like that to say, yeah, I'm going to fight Mateusz Gamrot. Like I just feel like his name is not there yet. So I'm trying to give him one more that's kind of like on the edge of those rankings. And I actually think what I would go with is Bobby Green. Green, I feel like deserves a big fight after taking out Iaquinta the way he did. And I feel like fighting someone who A, like scraps the way Bobby Green does, and B, is so hard to hurt the way Bobby Green is, I feel like would make Gamrot have to kind of show his mettle. And would allow him to be in what's probably an exciting fight and kind of build his name to try to get a big name if he can get that W.
Absolutely. Omar, what do you think? Men's lightweight, a lot of names out there for Gamrot. Who do you like?
Yeah, so for me, I was also thinking about what would be a fun fight because at this point, it's really about kind of Gamrot being able to build his highlight reel and kind of people knowing who he is. And he's such an explosive and exciting fighter that if you put him, I feel like against another explosive and exciting fighter, you're going to get sparks once they clash. And I just, looking at the names together, I can't see how this is going to be a bad fight. Gamrot versus Raphael Fiziev.
I thought about it, but I felt like Fiziev deserved a name already, so I didn't do it. But I mean, yeah, that fight's friggin' awesome.
Honestly, I think that's win-win for both of them. They're both going to come out of there looking like animals, I would imagine.
It's a great fight.
Yeah, and I think we all win watching them two fight. Really do.
Absolutely.
I got to say, lightweight is like, I love seeing how many new names are suddenly like at the top of lightweight. Like even guys that aren't ranked yet. Like you have Fiziev, you have Gamrot, who have both jumped into the rankings. You have Arman Sarukian, who's been out for a little bit, but he's still there. Brad Riddell's still a new name. You got Demiris Magulov, who's right there. Joel Alvarez, who's right there. I mean, the list, Magomed Mustafayev is still kind of like right there. There's a lot of names coming up at lightweight right now, which is pretty cool because it was a little bit of an older division for like a moment there. And now all of a sudden there's like a lot of new blood coming in.
Absolutely. That's a great take.
Even Michael Chandler really spiced up the division because we had always talked about what Michael Chandler could do in the UFC. And although he's lost, obviously, the a couple fights already, he's still just as good, if not as good as we've always talked about him being. So, he's been fun to have too.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and rounding out our discussion of the main card of this UFC fight night, Lewis versus Daukaus. In the featherweight division, Cub Swanson got a W, defeating Darren the Damage Elkins by TKO, spinning wheel kick followed up by punches at 2 minutes and 12 seconds of round number 1. Mark, let me start with you. Man, California bad boy gets it done, man. What was your reaction?
God, do I love me some Cub Swanson. I mean, the guy's the man. That was a vintage Cub performance. So patient, so calm, so violent. Just what a great W. He crushed the post-fight interview with his family in there. It was really just a perfect night for him and kind of a reminder of the murderer that Cub Swanson can be.
Absolutely. Omar, what about you? What was your take following this Cub Swanson W?
Yeah, that kind of performance is a Darren Elkins kryptonite kind of performance because that boy is able to take a lot of shots, but a lot of people get crazy when they fight him and they get wild, throw a lot of haymakers and try to headhunt. And Darren Elkins is very good at being very resilient there. But Cub Swanson is one of these guys. He's a sniper almost. When he gets you hurt, he'll measure you out. He'll wait for you. He'll pop you again, keep you on Queer Street, keep you moving. And he'll just bombard you until the next thing you know, you're looking up at the lights. Doing that to Darren Elkins is not an easy thing to do, which is why for like the first time I ever would pick Cub Swanson by goddamn decision instead of knockout, like I would almost always do, because it was Darren Elkins. And here he goes and knocks out Darren Elkins. So all the credit in the world, man. It was a great performance.
I did say that Cub was exactly what you just said, that Cub was not that guy. He would not rush. He would not play into Elkins' hands and let Elkins do Elkins' things. But I still thought decision. To put Elkins out like that was like, whew.
Yeah, man. Great win. Great win. Let us talk about Cub Swanson's next opponent. Mark, let me start with you this time. Who do you like?
So I know it's a guy coming off a loss against a guy coming off a win, but I love the idea of Dan Ige against Cub Swanson.
Oh, wow.
Not really one I ever thought about before. And then I thought about it today and I was like, oh, baby, I need that fight right now. So I love that fight. I know last week I suggested an Ige Barbosa rematch, but I totally forgot Barbosa's already fighting Bryce Mitchell. So give me Ige Cub.
Man, I love featherweight. I can't decide, man. I feel like I go back and forth each week of what division I love most. Bantamweight, featherweight, or lightweight.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like right now we're talking about featherweight. I'm like, God, I love featherweight. Omar, let me get your take on this. Cubs' next opponent.
It's actually a really good choice, to be honest. I was originally thinking about doing a rematch with what's his name, with Shane Burgos, but that does, although it feels like that was a while ago, it apparently wasn't too long ago, so it might still be a little too soon for that. Yeah, I'm not sure. The Dan Ige one, I guess I really wasn't thinking about it either, just because of how high he was on the list. But I'm actually really interested in that fight. That seems like a really good pick.
I didn't realize Cub isn't ranked.
Yeah,
That's
no,
some bullshit.
at all.
They have Alex Caceres ranked and not Cub. Like, what? Get out of here with
That's
that.
a little weird. That's a little weird.
I don't like that at all.
I also have to admit that whenever I hear Shane Burgos' name invoked, I always think he's not a featherweight. He's way too big to be a featherweight. I just think of him as like a welterweight in my head. I don't know why.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yeah. Let us move on and now highlight one fight from the prelims of this UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Daukaus. And that is Raquel Pennington, Rocky, getting a W over Macy Chiasson by submission via guillotine choke at 3 minutes and 7 seconds of round number 2. This was a women's featherweight fight that actually became a catchweight bout because Macy Chiasson missed weight by, I think, a pound and a half. So it was set at a catchweight at 148.5. And Raquel got it done. Omar, let me start with you. Rocky got the win. She is now on a 3-fight win streak, not at featherweight. The previous 2 fights against Marion Renault, and I did not review this name. Penny
Kianzad.
Kianzad, yes.
And to be clear, this one was only at featherweight because of the late notice. They're both still bantamweights.
Yes. That being said, I mean, neither one of them are ranked at featherweight, even though Raquel probably could be. But the UFC still is very weird with their featherweight division. Anyway, back to my question. What was your reaction of Pennington getting the win?
So I was a little surprised at how good she was at catching this submission. I really thought that Chiasson was going to be, better all the way around. Just with her rise and how well she's been doing in general, regardless of the weight. I just didn't really think that she was going to kind of get caught in something like that. It does look like, I know they all talk about it being a guillotine. So it is a guillotine, but it's like a modified guillotine. I think it's actually called a 10-finger choke.
10-finger choke, yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the major differences is that she's not in any guard. She's basically on the outside, almost like if she was doing like a bulldog choke or like a
which she has also pulled off.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
In the octagon, absolutely. Or even something like a Darce choke, for example, where you don't necessarily need to have your legs wrapped around them, to any extent. And so basically all she's doing is she's just taking the grip of her hands and choking her out just using the grip of her hands. And so that kind of pressure and leverage off of a slight advantage from her being against the cage. Pennington's bad, man. That's a bad choke and a very difficult choke to get in competition like that. So fucking all the credit to her.
Absolutely. Mark?
Yeah, so I just want to be clear with what you were saying before. They are both ranked at bantamweight, which is their real division. This was only okay because you were saying they're not ranked at featherweight, so I just wanted to be clear.
Thank you.
But yeah, I should have followed my own rule of never pick against Raquel unless she's fighting the elite. Finally, I did, and I got it wrong. Chiasson did look good early, I thought, but man, we talk about guys who are dogs on here. Raquel Pennington is a dog
since day one.
If you don't have an elite skill that is shutting Raquel down in some way, she is just going to be on you, and it's so hard to deter her. And as we were just saying, she loves those unique chokes. Like she's caught a couple, and she's so good at them. So you got to really watch your neck around Raquel, or she'll snatch it up quick. But that was a nasty finish.
Absolutely. At bantamweight, where do you see Raquel going from here if she's not fighting the elite? What do you think?
Yeah, she's in a weird spot because she has lost to all of Nunez, Holm, Durandame, and I don't think she's going to be getting a rematch against them at any time that soon. Granted, they also have her ranked behind the like trio of Aldana and Vieira and Kunitskaya, even though she beat Irene Aldana. So I don't really understand her ranking. Like I only have her behind those first 3 I named. But since that is how they have it, I'll pick one of those and say that maybe her and Ketlin Vieira makes sense right now with the win she's coming off. I think that'd probably be a good fight.
Absolutely. Omar, thoughts?
Yeah, that'd be my pick as well. I guess just to put another one out there, just as because it doesn't seem like Miesha Tate wants to fuck around with Aspen Ladd at all. A lot of it seems to stem from, I'm assuming, if she's telling the truth, that it has to do with the weight cutting, and she doesn't want to waste her time worrying about whether Aspen Ladd is going to make weight or not, or the event's going to go on or not. Seems like Miesha Tate wants to just ensure that when she's got a fight scheduled that they're going to show up and be on weight. So shade to Aspen Ladd, and it doesn't look like they're going to get that fight scheduled. But as a result, that'd be kind of fun too. Aspen Ladd versus Raquel Pennington. That'd be a great fight.
Absolutely. All right, gentlemen, let us now throw the rest of these fights from this UFC Fight Night prelim card into our lightning round. Lightning round, for those who are just joining us for the first time, by the way, thank you, is our game show segment in which we throw some fights into this style where I ask Mark and Omar for the fastest takes sort of possible. So, gentlemen, leave your takes to at maximum 1 to 2 sentences. All right, let's get this going. At middleweight, GM3, Gerald Mershard defeated Dustin the German. His name is kind of tough, even though it's German. Stolfus by submission via rear naked choke at 2 minutes and 58 seconds of round number 3. So sort of late in the fight. Omar, let me start with you. What is your take on GM3 getting it done?
Like, I feel like we should just always pick him by submission. Just because he's almost like a bigger version of Charles Oliveira. Like, if you ever count him out, chances are he's going to rip something off or choke you out or something like that. So just going forward, just going to pick him via submission always.
Mark, Mershard gets it done over Stoltzfus. What's your take?
Yeah, Stoltzfus was tough all fight. He brought it. He was in that fight. But if you're going to grapple with Mearshart again and again like that, it's really hard to go the full 15 minutes and not get caught in something. So probably not the best strategy, and Mearshart catches another one. Okay,
Mark, let me stay with you. Justin Fat Man Tafa knocks out Harry Hunsucker in round number 1, the end coming at 1 minute and 53 seconds into the round. Mark, what's your take?
Jesus, Justin Tafa. I mean, you got to make weight next time, man. But wow, that kick was so heavy that it KO'd Harry Hunsucker through the guard. Both arms up through the guard, out. That was nasty.
Omar, what's your take? The fat man getting it done over Hunsucker.
Probably would have been safer to hit him with a baseball bat, to be honest. I mean, the kick like flipped him, I feel like, another way. It was almost like watching a video game. The man just crumbled. Yeah, great win for Justin Tafa.
And his leg is like a tree. It's like he swung a tree at this man's head.
Matter of fact, you've ever watched that Rock movie where he's the sheriff and he's got that big ass piece of cedar? Yeah. That's literally Justin Tafa's leg right there.
That's right. Justin Tafa, by the way, what Mark alluded to, made some history, not in a great way. First fighter to ever miss weight at heavyweight in the UFC. Yeah. Marching down the card at a catchweight bout at 127.5 pounds, Melissa Gatto defeated Sijara Eubanks by TKO at 45 seconds of round number 3. Omar, go first.
Boy, I wouldn't want to be on the ground on the bottom against that girl. That was vicious shit. Elbows for days. I feel bad for Sarge. That was, I really thought that would be her upper comers, but not today.
Mark, what's your take? Gatto TKOing Eubanks. Yeah, that was a rough liver kick from Gatto. That looked bad. Eubanks shut off, but great win for her. She obviously shoots up the rankings, and Eubanks, people kind of thought, including me, that she might be able to put a run together now that she was back at this weight class, but so much for that.
Mark, let me stay with you at featherweight. Charles Jourdain gets a unanimous decision over Andre Ewell. Take it.
Ewell was clean early in this fight, as he usually is, but Jourdain just brought the fight to him every single second and started to overwhelm him. And then eventually he was kind of just running downhill. Like, he was just, Ewell couldn't stop him.
Omar, what's your take? Jourdain getting the UD over Ewell.
Yeah, I mean, it was for me, it's one of those things. Andre Ewell does this, I feel like, a lot, where he'll sort of just stay there while other people fight against him. And as long as he's not getting rocked or something like that, he doesn't necessarily feel the need to, I guess, push the pace back or something. He's almost content to just kind of be safe as opposed to fighting. And it just it honestly, it always makes him lose rounds and therefore makes him lose fights. But in this case, Jourdain was just so aggressive that it really put him in a lot of danger. I mean, he got like Sparta kicked by the end of that fight.
How great was that?
Amazing moment.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful more so because Andre Ewell was like almost like taunting him, like, come on, like, what do you got? And Jourdain was like, this is what I got, bitch, Sparta kick.
Right?
And
yeah,
it was right on the ground. And it just, I mean, if there was any message that you send to the judges at the end of a fight, that was the way to lose a fight right
Absolutely.
there.
You could have won the whole fight prior to the Sparta kick. And I'd be like, nah, that's an L. You lost.
Yep.
Nice.
It was a great fight, though. Great fight. And Charles Jourdain is a bad motherfucker, man.
Okay. At heavyweight, in the heavyweight bout, Dontel Mays defeated Josh Parisian by TKO with elbows at 3 minutes and 26 seconds of round number 3. Omar, take it first.
Yeah, this crucifix position stuff is like that. Anybody, anytime gets a crucifix position, I almost automatically assume that they've already won because it is a rare day in hell when somebody's able to get out of that position. Yeah. And anytime they're in it, it always just seems to be unlimited elbows until they get ripped open and they've just bleeding everywhere. Yeah, crucifix is like 99% effective.
Omar, what's your take? Dontel Mays getting the TKO victory over Parisian.
My name's Mark, but I'll give it to you anyway.
What did I say?
You said my name again.
Son of a bitch.
The key part of this is that this man, Josh Parisian, put himself in the crucifix. He moved his own arm from underneath to in between and locked it over on his own. I've never seen anything like it in my life. And as soon as it happened, I was like, I hope this idiot gets knocked out. And he did.
Okay. One more. Jordan Levitt, round 2 submission victory over Matt Sales by submission via inverted triangle choke at 2 minutes and 5 seconds of round number 2. Mark, take it first.
Jordan Levitt is a wild, like scrambly grappler, man. He's trying to snatch up stuff from everywhere. The Monkey King is an appropriate nickname, but that was a slick sub at the end and good win for him.
Omar, take us home. What's your take? Jordan Levitt getting it done over Matt Sales with a nice sub.
Dude, I'm telling you, I'm a big fan of this kid. He's a weird kid. I love weird kids that you know are against the grain, that people find odd, but they just get their asses beat by these guys, and I love it. That inverted triangle was nasty. It was sneaky, and I want to say I feel like he was going for something else at the same time. But the inverted triangle won before he even got there. So he's bad, man. You got to watch out for him. I'm telling you, watch out for this kid.
Thank you, sir. And that does it for this week's lightning round. And now let us put a bow on this past UFC fight night, Lewis versus Daukaus, by finding out who has risen and who has fallen in an update of our very own Priaulx rankings. Mark, what's the update?
All right, so we got a few risers and one faller this week. The first, the man on the marquee, Belal Muhammad. I had him as my number 11 welterweight. He now moves all the way up to number 5 on the back of that huge win.
Nice.
Amanda Lemos, had her at 17 at women's strawweight. Obviously controversial W, but a W nonetheless, so she does move up some. She's now my number 13 women's strawweight. A big move, Mateusz Gamrot. Was my number 30 lightweight. He is now all the way up at number 14 after finishing Diego Ferreira. And then the last and even bigger move is Melissa Gatto. She was my number 39 women's flyweight. Hadn't really proven too much yet. Hadn't had that type of opponent. Takes out Sijara Eubanks the way she did, and she is now my number 14 women's flyweight. Wow. The only faller, man I just mentioned, Diego Ferreira. He still has a solid resume, hell of a resume, but that's 3 L's in a row, so he's got to move down somewhat. He goes from my number 11 lightweight to my number 15.
Okay.
That is it.
Thank you, sir. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up. Hit that bell icon so that you never miss an episode. Find us wherever you get your podcasts for audio only. Hang out with us on your commute or while you're folding your laundry. And, of course, find us on social media at @new_MMA show. With that, boys, let us now pivot slightly away from MMA and talk boxing versus MMA, or rather celebrity boxer versus retired MMA. Gentlemen, this past weekend, Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley fought for a second time in their rematch. Tyron Woodley stepped in as a late replacement, replacing pro boxer Tommy Fury. That's right, younger brother of Tyson Fury. And guys, I thought the fight was going to go differently, but unfortunately, Jake Paul knocked out Tyron Woodley badly. About halfway through the fight, I think.
Yeah, round 6.
Flatlined him. Mark, let me start with you. What was your reaction off of the result of this rematch between Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley?
So, as always, there's a lot you can talk about around Jake Paul. The first thing I'll say is that was a filthy, beautiful KO. Miss me with all this talk about it being fake or set up or whatever. That's bullshit. It was a beautiful feint to the body. He looks down as well. Tyron thinks he's going low. He bites. Jake, while still kind of looking down, comes over the top, connects, puts his lights out. It was a perfect KO. So, you know, there's the people who think Jake is incredible. There's the people who think Jake is a bum. So I'll speak to both quick. First, to the people who think Jake is a bum. I give him a lot of credit for that KO. He just KO'd Tyron Woodley, multiple-time UFC welterweight champion, out cold. A man who's only been KO'd one other time in his whole career by Nate Marquardt way back in Strikeforce days. Never knocked out in his whole UFC career. Like, I'm not saying that Jake is some great boxer because he KO'd Tyron Woodley, because he's not. But what percentage of the population can stand across from Tyron Woodley and knock him out? A minuscule percentage. So alone, Jake deserves credit for that. Now, as for Jake himself, first off, we've said this on the show before. He is legitimately incredible at building this persona and directing his own career. He makes people hate him. He makes people tune in to want to see him get KO'd. But at the same time, this man is clearly putting in the work and improving. And he's also doing a phenomenal job of picking opponents, which we've mentioned before. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying there's not risks, because you fight someone like Tyron Woodley, of course there's a risk. But Jake Paul knows what he's doing in picking these opponents. And now this is where I'm getting to the people who think Jake Paul is the greatest thing they've ever seen. Jake Paul is very smart. He saw MMA as his avenue, where early on in his career, he can already fight other stars, because he can't do that in boxing. Because if he fought stars in boxing, he would get knocked out and he would get clowned on quick. But he knows he can fight these MMA guys who have name value, who will generate pay-per-view buys, but who don't have the level of boxing of someone with their equivalent name in boxing, because they essentially play a different sport. Like it's not the same. Yeah. So I'm not saying that, like, you know, now he's throwing out Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal. I'm not saying these guys can't box, because they can. And I will pick either one of them if they do end up fighting Jake Paul. But they certainly can't box at the level that a top boxer can box. Yet their names are just as big, if not bigger. So Jake Paul is super smart the way he is going about this, in that he's focusing on MMA, because it's letting him get these huge marquee fights without fighting guys who are as dangerous as they could be if he was fighting guys in his actual sport. On top of that, he's only ever targeting guys who are much smaller than him. Not much, but smaller than him. And no one seems to really be noticing that. Like, Jake is billed at 6'1". It may be a little high, people say. Maybe he's really 6 feet, let's say. But he has a 76-inch reach, and he weighs in around 190 pounds. And there may be cutting involved for him getting to 190 pounds.
There's definitely cutting involved.
Right? So he is fighting welterweights from the UFC, 170-pounders. Like, so I got the list here. Ben Askren, 1 inch shorter only, but 4 inches less reach and weighs in at 170 pounds. Tyron Woodley, 3 inches shorter, 2 inches less reach, weighs in at 170 pounds. He keeps throwing out Conor's name. I know so many people who say, oh, I'd love to see Conor fight Jake Paul. Conor's 4 inches shorter, 2 inches less reach, and he usually fights at 155 pounds. Jake Paul is cutting to 190. Like, he is much larger than these dudes he's fighting. Now, he's throwing out Masvidal and Nate, and with them, we're getting more into a respectable range. Masvidal is only 1 inch shorter, 2 inches less reach. Granted, he's still 170. Nate is the same height, same reach. Granted, still 170, but we're getting closer, at least in terms of the size of the frame, not right. Counting the weight. But for reference, Jake Paul, assuming, if he was in MMA, he'd cut to 185. Say he could make it 5 more pounds. You know who's 185 and Jake Paul's same height and reach? Sean Strickland. Should Sean Strickland be fighting Conor McGregor? Absolutely fucking not.
Right.
So that's my point here. This guy, it's not even a knock on Jake Paul, because I think it's brilliant what he's doing, because he's kind of pulling 2 tricks at once and it's working like a charm. He's fighting these big names, but they're not boxers, and he's fighting smaller guys. So he knows exactly what he's doing, but I mean it more kind of as just a reality check of where he's at. He's fighting smaller guys. He's fighting guys. I actually heard Tommy say this on Unboxing earlier, and it's a great point. These MMA fighters, obviously they can box, but the boxing they train is not true boxing, because they're like they can't leave their leg in certain places. Their footwork can't be the same. They can't move the same way, because they have to think about, will they be kicked? Will they be susceptible for a takedown? There's so much in the science of it that's different, where they're not on the same level in a pure striking match as a boxer is. So Jake Paul knows exactly what he's doing. It's working perfectly for him so far. If he does step in there with a Nate or a Jorge, does the level get too high where it doesn't work for him anymore? I think so. But to this point, it's working for the man. But yeah, how to kind of spell out the little bit of a reality check of exactly where I think Jake Paul's at.
Omar, let me bring you in here. You don't look thrilled. What's your take?
So, I mean, I keep thinking about the comparison that Mark's making about the differences between boxing and MMA. And the 2 things that keep popping into my head as analogies for it are like saying that a professional NFL player could go to Australia and all of a sudden become a professional rugby player, just because of how similar these games are, and vice versa for that matter. Yeah. Just because the games are similar doesn't mean all of a sudden you've got exactly what it takes to be at the elite level of this other game that you've never fucking played before. And the other one I was thinking of was baseball and cricket, but that might be a little bit less so. But some similarities there. That the football rugby one might be a little bit of a better analogy. Point being, they are different games. And there are certain rules, I feel like, when you're especially at the professional elite level of boxing, that a lot of MMA fighters don't play by, because of the exact things you just said, Mark. Like the game is completely different. The way they've been taught is completely different. And trying to break those habits is extremely difficult, especially when you spend your entire life learning something like that. And, depending on who you talk to, kickboxing and different types of martial arts, for some people, is a better fit than just pure boxing. Some people just can't box purely. It doesn't work for their body. It doesn't work for them. Regardless, Jake does have a very good tendency of matching himself up with the right people. Mm-hmm. What I have kind of resigned myself to is it doesn't seem like, and maybe you guys have seen more, because I don't go looking for a lot of the media when it comes to these things, but it doesn't seem like Jake has ever announced himself as a great fighter or trying to be the best fighter or is the best fighter. A lot of what I've seen is like, he's the most valuable, he's the most popular, he's the most talked about, which is probably not incorrect. I guess my issue has always been this thought that he is all of a sudden like this great boxer because of all of the things that he's done and the few people that he's beat and things like that have 0 boxing credentials essentially. But that doesn't really seem to be the case. He touts himself for exactly what he frankly should be touted for, which is essentially being one of the greatest promoters to like all of a sudden appear in the combat sports arena. And as much as Dana White doesn't like the kid, he has to respect what he's done, because that kid's made way more fucking money than a lot of these people have made in the last decade.
He's promoted himself as a promoter. And I don't even know if he is one of the promoters of the contest.
Well, he seems to be in some kind of partnership with Showtime. And I say partnership purposefully.
Does he have a company like Jake Paul Productions or something like that?
They might. I have no idea.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Either way though, to be fair, either way, he's a great promoter. In terms of like meaning like lowercase p promoter.
It's got a sting though, and it's got to kill Tyron on the inside. There is literally a video of Jake Paul doing the fucking Disney thing for the Disney Channel, and you got slept by this child.
Not anymore, man.
It regardless of how we see Jake and what that shit sucks. That sucks. And as a person, I'm assuming who's been fighting his entire life, to get railroaded like that is just, it's got to make you rethink a lot of things going forward. I know Tyron's been doing a lot of this bullshit online where he was doing the meme, this like meme contest. I don't know if you guys saw this.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to get ahead of it and just sort of like.
Oh, I think it's a rough look.
It is, man. It is.
Meme contest of you getting knocked out. I don't know. I can't.
Because and I guarantee you he's doing it because he knows that he's going to get clowned, and he's like you said, Mike, he's trying to get in front of it. He's trying to take the wind out of people's sails so that they're not, they don't have any power over him.
If I make fun of myself, right? Then no one's going to make fun of me.
Right. But Jesus, it sucks, man. It sucks. And I feel bad for him, but this is where we're at.
Mark, do you think we see Tyron Woodley fight again in any context?
Yes.
Do you think we'll see him in a boxing ring again?
Just simply from the way he's been talking, he's talking like he's going to fight multiple more times this year.
Really?
He was actually, I don't know if you heard, going into this fight, he said that, when he was saying this, he didn't think this fight was going to be in 2021. So he was making the point that he was going to be the first man to fight in 4 different combat sports in a calendar year. And he was saying that he was going to try to get the rematch with Jake in boxing, that he was going to take, or he wasn't saying this is what people were surmising, take an MMA fight with someone. And then they weren't sure what he meant by the others. They were thinking maybe triad, like that he was considering that a different sport. But whatever he's talking about, he certainly seems like he's intending to be active. And he already said after this loss that you're going to see him a bunch more this year. So, yeah, it sounds like he's going to keep going. And he can't go out like that.
Yeah, not like that. There's no way he stops fighting, getting knocked out by Jake Paul.
Yeah.
I've seen early odds of who is going to be the next opponent for Jake Paul. You guys have any early predictions of who's going to be the next guy to step into this fray?
Le Spider Silva.
Really?
Yeah. So he's currently the betting favorite that I saw. Is that who you saw?
Oh my God. I saw a few names. He was one of them.
I don't see how it can be any of these UFC guys. I don't see how. Like, I know that's what everyone likes to throw out. I just don't see how it could actually happen. Like, they're under contract with the UFC.
Right. If Jake Paul beats Anderson Silva by anything, I will fucking lose it.
I will be a recluse.
Yeah, I'll lose it.
Of course, the thing that evens the playing field is Anderson's age. How old is he now? Let's look it up.
And if Anderson's not getting kicked in the face or getting kicked in the leg, I trust him to get things done.
Yeah, Anderson is taller and has a longer reach by a couple inches, and obviously is the same weight.
I was going to say size, too, is a big factor there because that boy walks around at like 215, something like
Anderson,
that.
He might be even a few pounds heavier than Jake Paul.
Especially since he hasn't really been
training. He's not in the best shape of his life. He's also 46 years old.
He also hasn't necessarily stopped training because he trains his kids. He doesn't train like a fight camp anymore, but he's still very active and still, doing stuff.
If he lost to Jake Paul, I'd be beside myself. Really, any of these guys. Like Woodley, obviously we've discussed this on this show. I don't remember what all our takes was, but I was unsure of exactly what Woodley would do in there. He was a big underdog in the first fight. So I was like, all right, I think he could win. I gotta bet Woodley. This fight, I didn't even want to touch it. He's like right at that level where I was like, he's not like the best boxer ever. Like, yeah, he has power. The next step, if it ever was a Jorge or a Nate or an Anderson Silva, if Jake Paul beat any of these guys, I would be genuinely surprised. Like, we're at that point now.
I mean, with Jorge, he's going to have that size advantage that he's enjoyed over just about everybody else.
Agree, and it's a factor, but like
it is a huge factor.
He's gonna beat Jorge Masvidal. Like,
it's
the other thing too is, you know, people at this point need to at least respect this kid's power, because
he has power.
He's a big kid.
He's a big kid, but and Tyron acting like he doesn't know why he got knocked out. Jake Paul was throwing out so many feints that and Tyron was biting on all of them. It looked like Bassmasters. Like, he's biting on everything that gets thrown out by Jake Paul. He's eating it. He's grabbing it to the point where his hands. What the fuck is your hand doing down here? Yeah. What is it doing down here? There's no reason in boxing your hand should be this low. If you're parrying a shot, your shit doesn't come from here. This is it, dog. This is it. If you're going any further down than this, you're not boxing properly. And so to watch him just swing his hand to nothing and then get laid out was like, bro, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Okay. Let's put a bow on this and let's move on. We have other things to do and talk about.
I had enough of Jake Paul on a dime.
It's true, man. Oh boy. Let us now, everybody. Let's step inside the MMA sphere with Omar. Omar, give us the update. Give us the scoop. What's going on in the headlines.
Welcome back.
Here we go
to the MMA sphere. I know you guys missed that. Oh yeah. All right. So we're gonna start off a little on the darker side, just because I want to get it out of the way. But it was something that was pretty prevalent that happened, so I want to make sure that we point it out. The MMA community lost somebody in Jordan Young. Reasons are unknown, unfortunately, but Jordan Young was as of most recent, a PFL veteran and was a member of the American Top Team. So they don't know exactly what happened yet. Either that or they haven't released it. But as of right now, no one knows officially what happened to him. But he did die quite suddenly. And I believe he was really young. I want to say he was like 36, something like that. But it was a very, very sad time. And apparently a lot of people were, broken up and putting all their things out on social media about it. So, that he was 27. He was 27 years old.
Oh man.
Oh, God.
That sucks.
Yeah. So yeah, RIP to Jordan Young. Next on the list, our boy Chiasson in the news. Yes. Chiasson apparently suffered from a little bit of John Jones Vegasitis and decided to get crazy in Vegas and apparently attacked 5 different people in Vegas. Apparently it happened at the Luxor Hotel, which for those of you who don't know, it's that big pyramid with the light streaming right at the top of it. And apparently he committed a misdemeanor battery against 5 separate victims. I don't know how true this is. This is apparently just what happened, but apparently they can't arrest him for it because the cops weren't present and didn't see the fight. So that's why they had to issue him 5 separate battery citations. And he wasn't officially arrested.
Weird.
So those are those technicalities, but he got a few misdemeanors as a result of him apparently beating the shit out of 5 people.
So I saw Brendan Schaub talk about this a little bit, and he said he had info on it. So who knows if this is 100% accurate? He said what happened was that a guy and his girl, that a guy was with his girlfriend and kept talking to Chael and his wife, and that the guy kept saying super inappropriate shit about Chael's wife.
Oh,
and that Chael was telling him to shut up, and that Chael eventually lost it and went after the guy. So, and that's the only story Brendan Schaub told. And then after that is when I saw the 5 misdemeanor thing. So I'm wondering if this is like one of those stories where it sounds a lot different than it is, and really it's like that Chael was beating up some guy who kept saying shit to his wife, and like 4 people ran over and tried to pull Chael off, and then he wailed off him, and now it's 5 people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm wondering, I want this whole story to come out before I say like Chael's a really bad guy, because if it's the story that I just told, and it's a guy who kept saying shit about Chael's wife and he beat the shit out of the guy, and then like kind of was throwing some people off him because he's obviously in a rage, like then I'm like, all right, like yeah, I get it, chill. Like, you know what I mean? So I kind of want to see the details come out here.
Yeah. And as outspoken as Chiasson usually is, I can't imagine, although he hasn't come out officially with a statement yet, I can't imagine he won't get in front of this at some point and use his platform to explain exactly what happened. So
yeah.
I'm assuming they're trying to figure out the legalities of it now. I don't think they want to get too hairy with it, but I'm sure we'll get some more information sooner rather than later at this point. Next on the list, if you didn't know how committed Carla Esparza was to getting this goddamn title shot, she said that she will postpone her wedding if need be to fight Rose Namajunas.
I get that. You know, a UFC career is only going to be so many years.
Yeah.
And a marriage is the rest of your life. So,
and she's been waiting, man. She's been waiting for better or worse. She's been waiting.
Dana has changed his tune recently. I don't know if you saw. He did a little interview with Brett Okamoto, and he said that's the fight.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's looking good for Carla Esparza.
It has to be the fight. It has.
Run it back.
Nice. Final on the story list, Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz had a fun little video that came out recently where he was at the Jake Paul event, and he was in the crowd. He was actually there hyping up one of his boys that was in the undercard. I can't remember what his boy's name was, but he was there hyping up his boy, you know, Nick Diaz Army kind of thing. And I guess he was on his way out.
I think it was, right?
Who was it?
I think it was Chris Avila.
Chris Avila's. Yeah, Chris Avila, I think.
Yeah.
And so he ends up getting into an issue with a guy that he was walking by while he was leaving. And apparently that guy ends up being a bare knuckle fighter, but he like jukes at him and taunts at him. And this guy, there's a video of this guy just spilling all of his shit. His drink went everywhere. If he had popcorn, that shit was gone. Like it was like a movie. Like everything went everywhere. It was hilarious.
It's like his beer was a bottomless beer. Like it just kept coming out of the cup into the air.
Dude, there was a moment where he looked so scared, like when everything went up, he looked like really terrified that Nate Diaz was going to hit him.
Not a great look for that guy.
Yeah, it was a great reaction, I guess, when you really think about it. He was ready to go, but at the same time, he looked kind of ridiculous when it was all said and done. And the video just didn't help him out at all.
Oh my god!
But this man's name is Carice Archer, and he's I believe he was a 36-year-old bare knuckle fighter. So I know Nate at this point has already talked about like, I'll fight this guy for free. Chances are we'll never see that fight happen. No. But I mean, he got clowned so hard. If you haven't seen it, go to Dana White's Instagram because he definitely reposted that shit.
It looks like he was holding a pitcher of beer. It went straight up in the air like a cascade.
Gotta wonder if the stadium just hooked him up with another pitcher. Like we saw what happened, bro. It's cool. We got you.
Yeah, right.
I doubt it.
All right. So we're gonna get into a couple of fight announcements, and then we'll move on to our next little fun segment. Starting off, just because these two are not actual, UFC fights. Junior Dos Santos versus Kubrat Pulev.
Oh baby,
that is a triad fight. So apparently JDS is officially signed with Triller to get this done.
JDS has been pretty active. He's been doing some pro wrestling.
Listen,
doing his thing now. Hopping into the triad, hopping into the triangle.
Get your coin, Junior Dos Santos. Get your coin.
He should.
Vitor Belfort is back. Our boy TRT Vitor. Versus Chad Dawson, also on this triad card. So they're trying to build as many big names as they can. So it'll be interesting to see how many muscles Vitor Belfort has grown since the last time we saw.
Is it bad that I'm intrigued?
By what?
These matchups.
Oh, by the matchups themselves?
Like I'm literally intrigued. Like
you're part of the problem, Mark.
As you guys heard me rant on this show, I hated the Pulev Mir matchup.
Yes.
But like, you want to give me Pulev JDS? I'm like, you know what? I'll see how JDS does in there. I'm interested.
I feel like that fight might be 20% different.
I mean, probably, but I mean, I'm not going to pay for it, but like, I'm interested.
Yeah. All right. Matchmaking. What's going on? What are the new matchups?
All right, cool. So first we've got Jessica Rose Clark versus Stephanie Ager, I believe her name is, or Eager.
I have no idea who either of these people are.
She's been Jessica Rose Clark.
Sorry.
No? Oh,
really?
Personally,
Jess.
Oh,
they call her?
Yeah, I think I know.
Is that ringing a bell?
Well, Jessica Rose Clark, still a good time. Added to February 19th. Chao Borralo, I believe is how that's pronounced, is out against the fight with Jamie Pickett, and they have replaced him with Joseph Holmes. So that will be going down January 15th. Our return to the UFC.
All right.
I don't think I said this one last week. I think we talked about it just after we had finished, but the Alex Pereira, the first guy, or was it the first guy or the last guy to knock out Israel Adesanya in a kickboxing fight?
First and last.
So he is now, obviously he was in the UFC. He recently had his debut where he flying kneed some kid into existence, or out of existence, I should say. Yeah. He's fighting the recently victorious Bruno Silva. That will be going down on March 12th. Just seeing how both of them fight. That is not going 3 rounds. So
love that.
Keep your hat on for that one.
And I'll wait to see Pereira again.
Yeah, it's a sick matchup.
Seungwoo Choi versus Tucker Lutz has been added to UFC Fight Night in Columbus, Ohio on March 26th. Seungwoo Choi, I'm kind of a fan of. I want to see exactly what comes out of that kid, but he's got fantastic technique and great power. So I'm kind of interested to see how that turns out. I believe Tucker Lutz is also interesting too. I just can't put a name to the face or face to the name.
He is the guy that beat no, sorry, he's the guy that just lost to Pat Sabatini.
Oh, but that fight was a fucking banger though.
Right, and he beat Kevin Aguilar in his first fight. He's solid.
Okay. That was a banger fight. Okay. Speaking of Pat Sabatini, he's getting a fight rebooked with Gavin Tucker. That's going to go down April 9th.
I didn't know that.
Yep. And another big one, Marlon Moraes versus Song Yadong. That can't go to decision. I can't imagine that goes to decision.
Mike's favorite fighter.
Best name.
Oh man, you would love to say that name in the ring one day.
I would love to announce Song Yadong.
Oh
my God. What does he have a nickname? Remind me if he does.
He does.
I don't think so.
No, he does. He definitely does.
Let's look at it real quick. Song Yadong. Would I say it with the thickest New York accent? Possibly.
Kung Fu Monkey? That's not what they called him. That's not what I feel like I've heard him called something else.
Yeah, I don't think they say Kung Fu Monkey
I don't think they say Kung Fu Monkey either.
I think they just say Song Yadong.
After the podcast, after the show, I'm going to look up his last fight.
Yeah, go to the Julio Arce fight and find out. But whenever you see Song Yadong on a card or in a fight, make sure to tune into that shit. Last but definitely not least, Mariana Moroz is fighting Maria Agapova, added to UFC 272 on March 5th. That is a good fight. That is definitely going to be a scrap. That'll probably go to decision. But
I missed what you said. Who's Agapova fighting?
Marina Moroz.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Wow, Moroz has been out for a minute, I feel like.
That's a good one to have. Yeah, that'll be a good one to have on the pay-per-view. That's all I got for you guys.
All right.
Thank you for coming back into the sphere. I appreciate it. Missed you.
All right. And for this nearing the end of the year, we have a little bit of a special segment for you guys who are watching and listening. We are going to do a sort of round robin 2021 year-end trivia for each other. So each of the 3 of us have prepared 4 trivia questions that pertain to this past calendar year 2021 in the MMA world. And we're just going to go around one by one and ask the other 2 one of our questions. Who would like to go first, gentlemen?
I'll go first. I'm writing down our little scoreboard right now.
Oh,
I will go
real
first.
Quick before we start, I just want to say to the listeners here, this is a little bit of a teaser because obviously we have no MMA happening right now. Yeah. Next week, our next episode, we're going to give you guys a legit 2021 recap episode, best fights, best fighters, the whole spiel. So tune in. Should be a fun one. You'll get takes from all of us on all that stuff. So a little teaser getting into 2021 recap here, just with some trivia.
Nice. I can't wait for that one. Omar has volunteered to go first. Omar, Hit us up. What's your first question?
All right.
So is it a race? Like, what are we like hitting the button?
No, I think it's going to be more like open. I think just open.
Like, what if you say it and I'm like, oh yeah, I knew that. Like, what?
You know
We'll
what?
see.
You know what? We're on Zoom, baby. We
course,
got raise the
guys.
hand.
Of course. Oh, we have raised the hand.
Yeah.
If people watch. How do you
for
raise
those
your
of
hand
you
on
with
Zoom?
some technical knowledge, on the bottom of your screen, if
Oh,
you
yes.
see the reactions button,
You can raise
you can
hand.
click on that and raise your hand.
The question is,
I don't see raise hand there, but
Oh,
I'll do the thumbs up.
make your window bigger. It might help.
It literally says raise hand.
Not on
Can
mine.
you see my raised hand? Can you see mine?
Oh, it just changed the position of the window. Wait, unraise your hand.
Unraised, lower hand. It goes back.
I
Sorry,
don't have
sorry,
this.
folks.
I literally
listening
don't have
to this.
Okay,
But
you know what?
let's just
We're
raise
not
our
going to be
actual
raising hands.
All right, we'll raise
physical
our
hand.
actual hand.
Okay. If you guys want to come up with a noise and just shout out a noise,
No. Yeah, I'm just gonna blurt out.
there you
What's
go.
the
That
difference
works.
between mine and Mike's noise? Here's
Let's
as deep
get
as
to the
possible.
fucking
Mine was
question.
high as possible.
Okay,
All right, let's do this thing.
we're gonna start off with an appropriate Omar MMA sphere question. If you guys have
Love
been paying
it.
attention, you should know.
Okay.
For those of you who want to play at home, please do so. First question. Which UFC fighter is Brian Ortega currently booed / engaged to?
They're engaged?
Mark.
Tracy Cortez.
Tracy Cortez is correct.
I did
10
not know
points
they
for
were
Gryffindor.
engaged. I did not. I did not know they were engaged. Good for him. Good for them. But
1
good
point
for
for me.
him.
I didn't know they were engaged either.
Dude, talk about a power couple, man. Big
Yeah,
fan.
For
Big fan.
sure.
All right, second question.
No,
Wait,
we're going round
go all
robin.
around. Yeah.
Oh,
all right, Mark.
all
You
right. I
go
thought it was-
next,
okay.
Mark. You go
All
next.
right.
I'm next. Okay. Which one do I want to ask first? All right, we'll start with this one. In 2021, the referee who refed the most UFC fights was Herb Dean with 111.
Wow.
Who was second?
This is just fill in the blank.
Omar?
Jason Herzog.
That's a good guess.
That is incorrect.
Oh,
damn it.
wow.
Mike, would you
I was
like to make
thinking
an
of-
attempt?
I was thinking about guessing.
Jason Herzog was fourth.
He was fourth. Man, I
Holy
love Herzog.
shit.
You know who else I love? I freaking love Mark Smith, man. Love that ref. I'm going to guess the bald guy. Am I saying his name wrong?
Who's the bald guy?
Yeah, who's Mark Smith?
The bald black guy?
Mark Smith.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can't.
Is that who you're
stand
guessing?
No, I'm saying I love him.
Oh, yeah. I know Mark Smith.
I'm going to guess Goddard.
Goddard. I only have the top 5 in front of me. Goddard is not on it.
What?
The answer you'll
That
be
was my
disappointed
second
to know
choice.
is Mark Smith.
No way.
So
I
top-
still think of Mark Smith as like a relatively new guy.
Dude, I don't like Mark
maybe
Smith.
he
man.
see
You
this is just total.
Oh, podcast is over.
I'm not a fan, unfortunately. No.
I'm a huge fan of his.
Top 5: Herb Dean 111, Mark Smith 90, Chris Tognoni 86, Jason Herzog
Chris
62,
Tognoni?
What the hell is Chris
Keith
Tognoni?
Peterson 53.
Keith Peterson. That would have been a good guess. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow,
so,
Chris
you know,
Tognoni is active.
If we just did like main card, it might be different because I'm not sure if Mark Smith is doing like main events necessarily, but it's overall, and he is second.
Wow.
Also,
All right,
Mark,
Really
check-
didn't see
check-
that list coming like that. All right.
Mark, check your levels. You just got a little quiet,
Am I still quiet right now?
perhaps.
How about now?
I think that's okay.
Okay.
Wow. Good question.
Thank you.
Because when you started asking that, I was like, "Oh, Herb Dean has done the most."
Well, that's
then
why I had to
then
say
you
second.
said who's second. That was a great idea. Okay, here's my first question. This is just as fun as I thought it was going to be. Okay, the very first event in the UFC in the calendar year of 2021 happened on January 16th, UFC Fight Night, headlined by Max Blessed Holloway against Calvin Kattar, in which Holloway dominated Kattar in their featherweight clash. And in the process, Max Holloway broke 5 different records. I'm going to throw this to the both of you. I want to see who can name more of these 5 records in a fight.
Most strikes landed.
Yeah, that's the obvious one.
Uh-huh.
Most significant strikes landed.
That is correct. That's 2. So most strikes, most significant strikes.
Broke 5 records? Most strikes, most significant strikes.
Most wins in the featherweight division?
No.
Son of a bitch.
Are you talking about records that were only within the fight?
Correct.
Highest percentage of strikes landed?
If that is true, I don't know of that one. What I've looked up, this is the
I
ones.
didn't think it was that. I'm just struggling to think of what else it could be.
We're trying to make up records, man.
Most strikes landed, most significant strikes landed.
I'm going to give you 2 of them, and then I'll leave the last one.
Okay.
So significant strikes, also significant strikes attempted.
Oh.
Total strikes landed, also total strikes attempted.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then there was one more. This was also a cool one.
What would the one more be? Yeah, those 2 were obvious. I should have thought of that when I was saying the other ones.
The most rounds in the featherweight division?
No. This is within this fight. Even narrower than
highest strike differential between landed and absorbed?
No, although that is very possible in this fight. All right, I'm going to tell you. Record for most significant strikes landed in a single round in round number. So let me give you these numbers real quick. Let me give you the numbers real quick. Total strikes attempted 747. Total strikes landed 447. Significant strikes attempted 744. Significant strikes landed 445. And in round number 4, he landed 141 significant strikes in round 4.
Yeah.
So a lot of records going to Max Bless Holloway.
I have said since that day, and I'm trying to think, I may stand by this. I don't think I've ever seen a performance in my life where I felt more than that one than I felt no one on earth could have beat the man that fought that night.
At that weight class.
Yeah. All right, so
true.
no one gets points for that one, right? So
okay,
after round 1, it is Mark 1 and you 2 0.
Oh, baby.
Let us begin round 2.
Omar.
So there are 4 rounds of this, people. So you know, 12 total questions happening here.
All right. So for this one, we're going to try to go with who gets the closest to the right answer.
Okay.
How much did Conor's pay-per-view buys generate in 2001?
2021 or views?
Total?
Buys.
How many buys?
Right. So like when they say like this pay-per-view did 600,000, that's total buys.
Right.
Okay. Without going, are we talking without going over or just closest?
As close as you can get. Definitely don't.
I saw the damn list a while back, but now I'm like struggling to remember.
Total pay-per-view buys. I'm going to take a guess. I'm going to say 2.8 million. Total.
I'm going to say 3.8 million.
Oh, jeez. Shit.
The winner is Michael Hansen.
Oh, baby.
Is 3.1 million. The differential there is too great. I'm sorry, Mark.
Point for Mike.
Thank you. All right, Mark. Question 2. What do you got?
Oh, it's me, right? Okay. Should this also be the closest? I guess so. Let's try to get people points. So closest answer wins. Not counting interim belts, only the true belts. How many new UFC champions were crowned in 2021?
How many, not counting interim belts? Without going, interesting.
3?
I actually have a similar question to this, which is why I thought we should have maybe reviewed, but we did not. That's okay. This is not the first time we're going to do this. I'm saying this is not the only time we're going to do this. I'm going to guess, because it's slightly different than my question, it might have a different answer. I think it probably does.
I just hate how the fucking year blends together. I don't know what year is what anymore.
Yeah, it's hard.
I'm going to say 7.
Holy shit.
Mike got it.
Wow.
Really?
7. So I have a question.
Heavyweight was this year?
I was going to tell you who they were. Should I not? Is that going to mess up your question?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's do that. We'll save that then.
All right, so there were 7 new champions this year, but you're not allowed to know who they were, viewers.
But they will find out.
Mike jumps into the lead.
Okay, on November 6th of this year, 2021, at Madison Square Garden in New York City, Gamrot, the Nigerian Nightmare, defeated Colby Covington to defend his welterweight championship title. It was what number consecutive welterweight title fight for Kamaru Usman? What number title fight was it for Usman?
His 3rd.
No.
Mark says no.
No.
His 6th.
That is correct, Mark.
God damn it, I suck at this game.
It was his 6th consecutive title fight, his 5th consecutive defense.
Woodley, Colby, Jorge, Burns, Jorge, Colby.
Oh, yeah.
Very good, Mark. Wow. I
forgot it. I keep forgetting about Burns because Burns got steamrolled.
Yeah.
That was some Rain Man shit you just pulled. All right, Omar. Question number 3. Here we go.
After round 2, it is Mark 2, Mike 2, Omar donut.
How do I have 2?
I'm not great at this, apparently.
I don't even know how I got 2 points.
All right. What ailments did Oliveira have as a child that the doctors told him he would never walk again?
Yeah, I know he had an ailment where they told him he'd never walk again. I don't know what it was.
There are technically 2.
Walk again? 2 what?
Ailments.
Yeah, they told him he'd never be able to play soccer. And
what did he have? Asthma? I don't know.
Oh, man.
I think I don't know this. I feel like I maybe heard it once. What could it have been?
Yeah, I know of this well. I'm not going to get what the ailments were.
Did he have an autoimmune disease that he grew out of or something? Is that possible?
So he had an abnormal heart murmurs abnormal heart murmurs. And he also had juvenile rheumatoid arthritis.
Oh my God.
Arthritis.
Dude, I was just going to say rheumatoid arthritis. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. He was a kid. He can't have arthritis.
Junior rheumatoid arthritis is a very bad thing.
That was in my brain for some reason. I didn't know kids could even have that.
Wow. And when you said heart murmur, I was like, what does that have to do with walking?
Yeah, it was the arthritis.
Damn, I should have said it. I could have got half a point.
I see. All right, Mark. Question 3.
How many different arenas?
Oh, again, I have a similar question.
Again, whoever's closest.
I knew.
How many different arenas was a UFC event held at in 2021?
Wait, say the question again.
How many different arenas was a UFC event held at in 2021?
That's a great question. So unique arenas, meaning even if there were a bunch of...
Yeah, how many unique arenas? Correct.
Okay. That's a great question. I'm totally guessing. I'm just totally whiffing on this. I'm going to guess, can we both guess and give you closer? Whoever's closer?
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Yeah.
I'll say 20.
Omar.
5?
What? Dude, way too low.
Omar wins.
What?
The answer is 7.
No way. I thought it was going to be way higher.
Most of them are at the apex. And so I'm thinking to myself, there's Abu Dhabi, there's Florida, there's New York, Texas, I think was one of them.
Yep.
Then I must have missed something. Was DC on there?
No. So the 5 you said, Abu Dhabi's Etihad Arena, obviously the apex. New York was MSG.
Right.
Texas was Houston Toyota Center.
Right.
Florida was in Jacksonville at 5-Star Veterans. T-Mobile in Vegas.
Yeah.
And then there was one in Arizona at the Gila River Arena.
I never would have gotten the Arizona one. I never would have gotten the Arizona one.
I thought basically they're at Vegas and then they're somewhere else all year long. Okay. That was frustrating.
Well, usually, Mike, but in a pandemic year, no.
Yeah,
you're right. Okay. Here we go.
So Omar's in the game now.
Once again, Mark, my question is closely related to yours. Here's my next question.
You didn't even ask the other one that was closely related, did you?
That's going to be my fourth one.
Okay.
My third question is this. The UFC held 43 events in the calendar year of 2021. How many of which were held at the UFC Apex facility in Las Vegas? So 43 total events. How many were held at the Apex in Vegas?
You said 43
total. Yep. On the year. That's a lot of events, man. That's like almost every weekend.
28.
Omar's going to be like 5.
Fuck you. 24.
The answer is 24.
What? Oh my God, Omar. That was impressive.
When you said 28, I was like, oh, that's a wrap.
Dude, yeah. Wow, Omar just tied it up. It's 2-2 after 3 rounds.
Oh my God.
This is wild.
It might end tied.
We might need a fucking tiebreaker round.
Fuck, now I got this. Now what I feel like is a shitty ass question because you guys will probably know this, but we'll see. Who is the coach that Francis Ngannou and Cyril Gane have in common?
Oh, I don't know his name.
Oh, yes.
I don't think I know his name. I'm looking at the guy. I'm here. I can hear his voice.
This was what I wanted. I wanted you guys to have this shit at the tip of your tongue.
I don't know his name.
I don't know. Is it a well-known coach?
When you say it, I'm going to be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I might kick myself. Is it a well-known coach?
Ferdinand Lopez.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 0.
Damn.
Zeros. Okay, Mark.
Omar's
Last question from Mark.
You can get both questions left now. Okay. This is my hardest one, so I saved it for last. There are only 2 men's fighters who are currently ranked who debuted in the UFC in 2021. Name them.
Wow. Okay.
And whoever says it first gets credit. So
Paddy
you might
Pimblett.
both get a half a point. What'd you say?
No, Pimblett's not ranked anymore. No, I'm sorry. Pimblett's not ranked. He was never ranked.
Okay. Hold on. Oh, damn it.
I'm just trying to go fast.
I'm trying to go fast for sure.
Yeah, you could both get half a point if you each end up getting 1. But we're gonna have to cut it at some point too.
I know for sure. Okay, here's my one guess. Is I'm fucking blank. I'm drawing a blank. I'm looking at the guy. Michael Chandler.
That's correct.
Yes.
That was the easier one. The other one's a little trickier.
I wasn't sure if he debuted at the end of 2020, but he did earlier this year.
Alex Pereira?
Is he ranked?
Not ranked.
Who else could it be? Give us 10 more seconds.
You can have a minute.
Okay.
You've only made one guess. You at least get a second guess.
This is true. Who debuted? Who made their UFC debut this year? Not their debut, but like their first fight in the coming over.
First fight in the UFC was this year, and they are ranked.
And they're ranked. Wow,
Michael Chandler is 1, and there is 1 more.
Great
there are a few
question.
women, but I'm talking just men. Women is way harder. I was going to ask that one. I was like, nah, let me spare him.
Pereira was a good guess.
Yeah.
That was a really good guess.
Wow, I'm like drawing a crazy blank.
Oh, I have a guess. Okay. Omar, can I guess?
Go for it.
Is it Chigadze?
No.
Oh,
But that's when I was checking, I wondered the same about him, and I was like, oh no, he's been there. But it feels like he's that new.
It can't be Hamza, right? This guy debuted like 2 years ago.
No. He was out so long this year.
Yeah, all right.
You want the answer? Do you want the answer or no?
I'm out of juice.
Manel Cop.
No way.
I never would have gotten that shit.
Yeah, I never would have guessed
4
that.
fights already, but they were all this year.
No
Crazy.
way.
Including his losses too.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, wow. No, I wouldn't have gotten that one.
All right. So going into the last question.
Yes.
Mike's
I
winning,
have
isn't he?
2. Omar has 2. Mike has 2.5. So if neither of us get this, Mike is the champ. If one of us gets it, it's us.
Here we go. My question is this. Not including vacant titles, how many UFC titles switched hands in the calendar year of 2021? Meaning a champion in a fight lost the belt to the opponent.
Not counting interims?
Not counting.
Well, interims would have technically been vacant.
I said not counting vacant titles.
Right.
So
6.
Omar, do you have a guess?
5.
The answer is 6. Yay!
I didn't want to be a biter and go with 6 just because he said 6.
I know. Well, I don't know what we would have done.
Champion of the world. That was a good battle. 3 to 2.5 to 2.
And it's crazy that 2 of our questions were pretty in this very similar vein.
Yes.
Okay, here let me run them down real quick.
My question helped me answer that question.
In chronological order, March 6th, UFC 259, Aljo defeated Petr Yan by DQ. March 27th, UFC 260, Francis Ngannou knocked out Stipe in their rematch. April 24th, at 261, Usman versus Masvidal 2. On that card, Thug Rose recaptured the women's strawweight title against Zhang. June 12th, UFC 263, Adesanya versus Vettori 2. On that card, Brandon Moreno defeated Figueiredo in their rematch. October 30th, UFC 267, Blachowicz versus Teixeira. That main event, as you know, Teixeira defeated Blachowicz. And finally, on December 11th, UFC 269, Juliana Pena choked out Amanda Nunes.
I keep thinking that Brandon Moreno fight was the one in December when that's not the one he won though.
Dude, I did the same thing.
Shit.
That's correct.
And for my question, which was how many new champs were crowned, not counting interims, it was obviously those 6. The only one other was Charles Oliveira defeating Michael Chandler to win the vacant lightweight belt.
That's right. That's right. Were there any interims? Because when you said interim, you threw me off. I was like, because I went through every pay-per-view.
I honestly, I only said that because I couldn't remember if there were any interims. No, yeah, Cyril Gane.
Oh, they did do that.
That counts not as a vacant belt, but as like a filler interim when he.
But that's what interims are. Interims are basically
he won the
vacant belts.
Yeah. Right. That is it though.
Yeah.
Shit, that's right.
So you said not including interims. How many people won?
Right, because it would have been 8
new champions
if I included interims.
Right,
because it would have counted Cyril Gane, which I didn't want to do.
And I'm not counting interims or vacants.
Right.
I said how many belts changed hands in fights.
I'll give you the really hard one I was going to ask was the 3 women who are currently ranked who debuted in 2021, which is like impossible.
Yeah.
But the answer is Manon Fior, Casey O'Neill, and Luana Pinheiro.
Wow.
Yeah, no one would have got that one.
What about
that was dope.
Yeah, that was fun, man.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was fun. I like the questions more where it's who's gonna get closer, who can get closer.
Yeah, those were cool.
Because it's that's cool. Hey, that's cool, guys. That's cool, man. Let's put a bow on this episode. It is getting late, and
here Mark thought we wouldn't have enough for an hour and a half.
It's so late. Holy balls! It's so
late. It's wow. It's late.
Wow, we're so committed to you guys.
That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're still with us, thank you once again. One last time, if you're watching this on YouTube, please go right ahead. Like this video, share this video, leave us a comment if you like any of our takes. If you don't like any of our takes, let us know. Find us wherever you get your podcast. Let us join you on your commute. And of course, find us on social media at @&new_MMA show in all the places. And once again, next week, join us. We will be back, but we will be discussing an entire recap of the calendar year of 2021, who we think or are the best fighters, best fights, best cards, on and on, best referees, worst referees, not Mark Smith. We will see you next week. Thank you so much for sticking with us this whole journey this year. Has been a lot of fun.
Yes.
Any parting shots, gentlemen?
That's it for me. Tune in next week. Until then, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Right.
Enjoy.
Get your Christmas Story versions in there. I love watching A Christmas Story for Christmas, man.
Yeah,
I love that movie.
All right, folks. See you next week.
Peace.
Peace.